Life has a way of knocking us down. Sometimes it feels like no matter how hard we try, everything is working against us. The doors we thought would open slam shut. The people we trusted walk away. The plans we carefully made crumble before our eyes. And in those moments when the weight of the world feels too heavy, it's easy to wonder if we've been forgotten, if our prayers even matter. But listen to me, you are not alone. This is not the end of your story. There is still something greater at work, even in the chaos. And in this moment, when you feel like giving up, I want you to pray not just with words, but with a heart that refuses to let go. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say this. I may not understand what's happening right now, but I trust that something greater is on the other side of this pain. When everything's pushing against you, that is not your sign to quit. It's your sign to stand, to believe that the struggle is not here to break you, but to build you. You may not see it yet, but every challenge, every setback, every disappointment is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. Growth is never easy. Transformation is never painless, but nothing worth having comes without resistance. So when life feels impossible, when you're tired, when you're broken, when you don't have the strength to keep going, pray. Pray for courage when fear whispers that you'll fail. Pray for peace when your mind is racing with doubt. Pray for strength when you feel weak, not because the storm will disappear overnight, but because you are stronger than you think, and you are never walking through this alone. What's meant for you is still coming. The doors that were closed were not meant for you. The things that fell apart were never the foundation you needed. The roadblocks were redirections. And one day, not long from now, you'll look back on this moment and realize it wasn't working against you, it was preparing you. Hold on, keep believing, keep praying. Your story isn't over yet. There's a moment in every journey where the weight of the struggle feels unbearable, a moment when the obstacles seem too big, the disappointments too painful, and the road ahead too uncertain. It's in that space between what we thought life would be and what it actually is that we start to question everything. Why is this happening? Why me? Why now? But here's the truth that most people don't talk about. Adversity isn't a punishment. It's a process. It's the fire that refines, the storm that strengthens, and the resistance that builds resilience. The greatest transformations don't happen in comfort. They happen in the tension of struggle. The moments that break us open are the very moments that prepare us for what's next. When everything feels like it's working against you, it's easy to believe that you're on the wrong path. But what if this isn't a detour? What if this is exactly where you're meant to be? Growth doesn't come without discomfort. Strength doesn't come without strain. Every person who has ever risen from the ashes first had to walk through the fire. So in the middle of your storm, when you feel like you have nothing left to give, when you are exhausted from trying, pray, not just for the storm to end, but for the strength to endure it. Pray for the wisdom to see that this is not your breaking point, it's your breakthrough. Pray for the courage to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that the pressure you feel is shaping you into something greater. There will be days when you wonder if you have what it takes, when self-doubt whispers that you're not enough, that you're too weak, that you should just give up. But you have survived every hard thing you thought would break you. You are still here. You are still standing, and that means there is still more ahead for you. This moment is not the end. It is the stretching, the growing, the refining. The adversity that feels like it's against you is actually working for you. So hold on, keep pushing, and pray, because one day you will look back on this moment not with pain, but with gratitude, not with regret, but with pride. And you'll realize that this was not the place where you lost, it was the place where you rose. There's something deeply human about feeling alone in our struggles. When life feels like it's unraveling, when the weight of uncertainty presses down on us, when every step forward feels like pushing against an invisible force, Our first instinct is often to retreat, to believe that no one sees us, that no one understands, that we are somehow forgotten in the chaos. But here's what I need you to know. You are not alone. You never were. Even in the silence, even in the heartbreak, even in the moments when it feels like the world has turned its back on you, something greater is holding you up. It may not always look the way you expect, and it may not come in the timing you hope for, but you are being carried through this storm in ways you cannot yet see. Pain has a way of convincing us that we are isolated, that no one else could possibly understand the depth of our struggle. But the truth is, the most powerful, resilient people in the world have stood right where you are. They have battled self-doubt. They have faced rejection. They have walked through the fire of uncertainty, and they too have wondered if they were all alone. But they weren't, and neither are you. When everything feels like it's working against you, when exhaustion sets in and hope starts to fade, don't just pray for the struggle to end. Pray for the awareness to see the hands holding you up. Pray for the clarity to recognize that even in your darkest moments, you are surrounded by grace, by strength, by a force far greater than the storm you're facing. It's easy to believe that because you can't see a way forward, there isn't one. But faith is trusting in what we cannot yet see. It's believing that even when the road is unclear, you are still being guided. The weight you are carrying was never meant to be carried alone. Let go of the belief that you have to fight this battle by yourself. You are held, you are seen, you are loved, right here, right now, in the middle of the storm. One day you will look back at this moment and realize that even when you thought you were alone, you were never walking through this by yourself. The strength, the grace, the resilience, it was always with you. And it still is. Keep praying, keep believing you are not alone. Uncertainty has a way of making us feel small. When life isn't unfolding the way we planned, when the answers we desperately seek don't come, when every step forward feels like a step deeper into the unknown, fear takes over. It tells us that if we can't see the way, maybe there isn't one. If we don't understand the struggle, maybe it's meaningless. If we can't find the purpose, maybe we are lost. But here's the truth. Just because you don't understand what's happening right now doesn't mean it isn't leading you somewhere meaningful. The most powerful moments of transformation often don't make sense while we're in them. Growth feels messy, change feels uncomfortable, and the path to something greater rarely comes without moments of doubt. Trust isn't about having all the answers. It's about believing that even in the uncertainty, even in the waiting, even in the struggle, there is purpose in this moment. It's easy to trust when life is going our way, but real faith is built in the moments when we don't understand, when we can't see the outcome, when everything in us wants to control what was never ours to. When life feels like it's working against you, don't just pray for clarity, pray for the strength to trust even without it. Pray for the courage to surrender what you cannot change. Pray for the wisdom to see that even delays and detours can be divine, because what's meant for you will never pass you by. The opportunities that slip through your fingers, the doors that refuse to open, the things you thought would last but didn't, none of it was wasted. The rejection wasn't the end. The unanswered prayers weren't neglect. Sometimes not getting what you thought you needed is the very thing that clears space for something even greater. You don't have to have it all figured out to believe that something good is still ahead. Let go of the need to know every detail and trust that even in the waiting, even in the struggle, even in the heartbreak, something is shifting for you. You may not understand it today, but one day you will look back and realize that this season was never working against you. It was preparing you. Keep going. Keep believing, keep praying. What's meant for you is already on its way. There will be moments in life when the weight of everything feels unbearable, when exhaustion seeps into your bones, when the fight feels too long, when you're standing in the wreckage of what you thought would be, wondering how much more you can take. In those moments, the mind will tell you to quit. Fear will convince you that you're not strong enough. Doubt will whisper that you've prayed, you've tried, and nothing has changed. So what's the point? But hear me when I say this. Prayer is not about instant relief. It's not a magic formula to erase the struggle. It's the anchor that keeps you steady in the storm. It's the quiet strength that rises within you when everything else is falling apart. It's the reminder that even in the darkest moments, you are not powerless. When everything is working against you, don't just pray for the storm to end. Pray for the resilience to withstand it. Pray for the peace that defies logic, the kind that allows you to stand firm when nothing makes sense. Pray for the wisdom to see that even here, in the middle of the chaos, something is shifting within you. Strength isn't about never feeling weak. It's about finding the courage to keep going despite the fear, despite the exhaustion, despite the uncertainty. It's about knowing that you were built to endure, that the same fire that feels like it's consuming you is actually refining you. And when you pray, you are not just asking for change, you are stepping into the power that has always been inside you. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to see the full picture. All you need to do is take one more step. Keep believing, keep praying, keep standing. Because one day you will look back at this moment and realize that the very thing you thought would break you was the thing that made you unshakable. Pain has a way of making us question everything. When we're in the thick of it, when nothing seems to be going right, when every door feels like it's closing, it's easy to wonder if we're being punished, if we've made a wrong turn, if maybe we're just not meant to win. But what if the struggle isn't here to destroy you? What if it's here to shape you? Every challenge carries a lesson. Every setback has something to teach us. Growth is never easy, and transformation never comes without discomfort. The most powerful, unshakable people are not the ones who have never struggled. They are the ones who learned how to rise. They are the ones who stood in the fire and refused to let it burn them down. When life feels like it's working against you, don't just pray for the struggle to end. Pray for the eyes to see the purpose within it. Pray for the patience to endure what is stretching you. Pray for the wisdom to understand that even pain has a purpose, because the moments that feel like breaking points are often the very moments that build us into who we were meant to become. Think about it. Every mountain you've ever climbed, every battle you've ever fought, every storm you've ever survived has led you here. And you are stronger today because of it. The hardest moments in life are often the ones that prepare us for what's next. The rejection that shattered you, it made space for something better. The loss that changed you, it deepened your capacity to love and understand. The disappointment that nearly broke you, it forced you to grow in ways you never would have otherwise. So when you pray, don't just ask for the struggle to disappear. Ask for the strength to face it. Ask for the wisdom to learn from it. Ask for the faith to trust that nothing in your life is wasted, not even the pain. Because one day you will look back and realize that this season wasn't working against you, it was working for you. And everything you are becoming is because you didn't quit when it got hard. Keep praying, keep believing, and keep trusting, because even this is part of the story that is making you unstoppable. Rejection stings. It makes us question our worth, our path, and sometimes even our purpose. The door we prayed would open stays shut. The opportunity we fought for slips through our fingers. The person we thought would stay walks away. And in those moments, it's tempting to believe the lie that we weren't good enough, that we failed, that maybe we were never meant to have what we hoped for in the first place. But here's what I want you to hold on to. Rejection is not the end of your story. It's a redirection. It's a course correction from something that was never meant for you, guiding you towards something greater. We don't always see it in the moment. Sometimes all we feel is the loss, the disappointment, the weight of wondering, why not me? But what if that closed door was never a punishment? What if it was protection? What if what you thought was being taken from you was actually making space for something far better? When life feels like it's working against you, don't just pray for the pain of rejection to fade. Pray for the clarity to see that this is not the end. Pray for the trust to believe that what's meant for you will never pass you by. Pray for the wisdom to let go of what wasn't yours to begin with. Because the truth is, what's truly meant for you won't require you to beg for it to stay. It won't break you. It won't leave you questioning your worth. It will fit, it will align, and it will arrive in its perfect time. I know it's hard when the plan you had in your heart doesn't unfold the way you expected. I know it hurts when you gave your all to something only to watch it slip away. But one day you'll look back and realize that what felt like rejection was actually a blessing. The delay was divine, the detour was necessary, and the disappointment, it was making room for the kind of life you were always meant to live. So keep praying, not just for open doors, but for the strength to trust the ones that close. Not just for things to go your way, but for the wisdom to know when they aren't supposed to. Because the things that leave your life are not the things that define it. What's ahead is still greater than what's behind. And one day, when everything falls into place, you'll understand why this moment had to happen exactly as it did. Keep believing, keep trusting. What's meant for you is still coming. Fear has a way of creeping in when we're at our lowest. It whispers doubts into the quiet spaces of our minds, convincing us that we're not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough to overcome what's in front of us. It tells us that the obstacles are too big, that the past defines us, that failure is inevitable. And in those moments when life feels like it's working against us, it's easy to let fear take the lead. But fear is a liar. It magnifies the unknown, making the future seem like a threat rather than an opportunity. It convinces us to play small, to shrink ourselves, to settle for less than what we were made for. But faith does the opposite. Faith reminds us that even when we can't see the outcome, we are still being guided. Even when we don't feel strong, strength is already within us. Even when we feel like giving up, there is more ahead than we can imagine. When everything is going wrong, don't just pray for the fear to go away. Pray for the courage to move forward despite it. Pray for the belief that even when the road is unclear, you are not lost. Pray for the strength to take the next step, even if you don't know exactly where it leads, because courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward anyway. You are never meant to live a life ruled by fear. You are never meant to let the weight of uncertainty keep you from stepping into something greater. The dreams in your heart, the purpose on your life, the hope that refuses to die inside you, those are not coincidences. They are whispers of what's possible if you choose faith over fear. So when the fear rises, when doubt tells you to turn back, when everything in you wants to give up, pray, not just for the road to be easy, but for the strength to walk it anyway. Not just for the fear to disappear, but for the courage to trust in what you cannot yet see. Because one day you will look back on this moment and realize that fear was never stronger than you. The only thing standing between where you are and where you're meant to be is the belief that you are already enough. Keep going, keep believing, keep praying. Faith will always carry you further than fear ever could. There comes a point in every journey where exhaustion sets in, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It's the moment when you've given everything you have, when you've tried and still nothing seems to change. It's the moment when you start to wonder if all your effort has been in vain, if your prayers are going unheard, if maybe the weight of it all is simply too much to bear. But here's what I need you to remember. Rest is not weakness. Pausing does not mean you're failing. There is strength in allowing yourself to breathe, to step back, to gather yourself before stepping forward again. We live in a world that glorifies hustle, that tells us we must keep pushing no matter what. But even the strongest warriors know that rest is part of the fight. Even the tallest trees need seasons of stillness to grow. Even the ocean, mighty and relentless, pulls back before its next great wave. When everything feels like it's working against you, don't just pray for the strength to keep going. Pray for the wisdom to know when to rest. Pray for the peace to understand that slowing down does not mean you're losing. Pray for the clarity to see that even in the stillness, something powerful is happening. Growth is not always loud. Healing is not always obvious. Sometimes the most transformative work happens in the quiet moments when we allow ourselves to simply be. Rest does not mean quitting. It means giving yourself the grace to recover, to realign, to regain the strength you need to keep moving forward. Because you were never meant to do this journey on empty. You were never meant to carry everything alone. Let yourself breathe, let yourself heal, let yourself trust that even in the moments of stillness, you are still moving forward. One day you will look back on this season and realize that the moments you rested weren't setbacks, they were necessary. They were the spaces where you gathered the strength to rise again. Keep praying, keep believing, keep resting when you need to, because even when you pause, your purpose does not. And when you are ready, you will rise stronger than ever before. There's something powerful about looking back on the storms you thought would break you and realizing you made it. Maybe you didn't come out unscathed. Maybe you have scars. Maybe you carry lessons you never asked for. Maybe the journey left you different than when you started, but you're still here. And that means something. That means you are stronger than you thought. That means even when life pushed against you, you didn't let it define you. That means there is more ahead for you than what's behind you. When you're in the middle of the storm, it's hard to see anything beyond the struggle. It's easy to believe that this is how it will always be, that the weight will never lift, that things will never change. But nothing stays the same forever. Pain shifts, circumstances evolve, wounds heal, and even when you can't see it yet, something is always happening beneath the surface. When everything feels like it's working against you, don't just pray for the hardship to end. Pray for the endurance to see it through. Pray for the faith to trust that this is not where your story stops. Pray for the strength to hold on when everything in you wants to let go. Because one day the very thing that is testing you will become the thing that strengthens you. You are not meant to just survive this life. You are meant to rise from every challenge, to grow from every hardship, to carry forward the wisdom that only comes from walking through the fire and making it to the other side. Your struggles do not define you, but how you rise from them does. And if you're still here, if you're still fighting, if you're still hoping, even just a little, that means there is more for you. So keep praying, not just for an easy road, but for the resilience to keep going even when it's hard. Keep believing, not just in what you can see, but in the possibility of something greater ahead. Keep trusting, not just in the outcome, but in the process that is shaping you into who you were always meant to be. One day, you'll look back and realize that every struggle, every moment of doubt, every tear, and every prayer was leading you to something greater. And when that day comes, you'll be grateful you never gave up. Life has a way of testing us in ways we never expected. It pushes us, stretches us, and sometimes brings us to our knees, making us question everything, our strength, our purpose, even our faith. And in those moments, when the weight of it all feels unbearable, it's easy to believe that we are alone in our struggle. But we are not. Every challenge, every setback, every unanswered prayer is not proof of abandonment. It's an invitation to trust. It's a call to lean into faith, to surrender what we cannot control, to find meaning even in the unknown. It's in these moments when we feel like everything is working against us that we are given the choice to either be consumed by fear or to rise in faith, to either let our circumstances define us or let them refine us. Prayer is not about fixing everything instantly. It's not about making the road smooth or the journey easy. It's about anchoring ourselves in something greater than our circumstances. It's about remembering that even when we feel lost, we are still being guided. Even when doors close, it doesn't mean the path is gone. Even when nothing makes sense, there is still purpose in every step. So when it feels like life is pressing in from every side, when you're tired of fighting battles that seem never ending, when you wonder if you even have the strength to take another step, pray. Not just for things to change, but for the courage to endure. Not just for the storm to pass, but for the wisdom to find peace in the middle of it. Not just for open doors, but for the trust to know that closed ones are just as much a part of the journey. And remember this, nothing you've been through will be wasted. The tears, the trials, the waiting, the moments of doubt, every single piece of it is shaping you, preparing you, strengthening you in ways you can't yet see. The pain is not permanent. The struggle is not the end of your story. There is still more ahead, more love, more joy, more healing, more purpose. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You don't have to see the whole path. You just have to keep going, keep believing, keep trusting, and most of all, keep praying. Because what's meant for you will find you, even in the midst of the storm. And one day you will look back on this season, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the strength it built in you, gratitude for the faith it deepened, gratitude for the person it shaped you into. And in that moment, you will realize that nothing was ever working against you. It was always working for you.